Today is November 15th, 2018, and today is Thursday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, let's start with the economic events of the day. Starting out at 11:30 South African time out of United Kingdom, retail sales numbers coming out. Now, then we also have retail sales coming out of the United States, and that's going to be at 3:30 South African time. And lastly, at 6:30 South African time, Fed Chairman Powell will be speaking. Now, these economic events, I believe, have already been factored in, so I don't expect any surprises. Now, let's take a recap on some of our highlights. USD retraces versus the major pairs. We'll take a look at that. In terms of the commodities, gold and oil bounce off support. We'll take a look at that. Very important levels. And next, the indices, Dow consolidates at 25,000. That's the Dow Jones. And lastly, Apple stock continues to sell off to lower than not just $200, but at $184. That's a major retracement for Apple. But let's take a look at what we can expect from today. So we're jumping into the Euro USD on a daily chart. As you can see, after selling off tremendously to the 112-ish level, we finally bounced off of these lows, and we're right here at somewhat of a resistance level, 113.33-ish level. The next real resistance level is 114.45-ish levels. So just keep this in mind that if we do retrace here, that's natural. Now, what you want to be looking is as which major pair will be carrying the dollar first. Okay, so usually it was the Aussie USD. Okay, we're looking at the Aussie USD, and as you can see, it's at the top of the range here after breaking this downward momentum that we had for quite a while. And so, you're looking for some sort of breakout here for continued strength, okay? If we look at the GBP USD, you'll see some volatility here, some tremendous volatility. So there's a lot of resistance to breaking this higher on the upside, okay? So, as soon as we do break that higher side, then I do expect it to continue, correcting itself on the upside and continuing rallying. But until that happens, we're going to see a lot of, pull and chug, okay, as I call it, the war between the bears and the bulls as to which direction this is going to be going. Now, if we jump to the commodities, we spoke about gold hitting a low of 1,200 and then finally bouncing off of it at 1,212. Okay, so this has been really reluctant to express itself on the upside once we hit the 1240-ish level, but as you could see, it doesn't want to go below the 1200-ish level, which kind of makes sense because the Dow Jones is selling off, and I would expect the gold to actually rally here. However, you see that we're still trading within a certain range, okay, and that's really because inflation is put into check, and therefore gold is not rallying as it should be, because it's not just that the Dow Jones is selling off, okay, and I would have expected gold to rally. It's that inflation is also a factor, and since inflation is not an issue right now because the Fed is already putting some checks and balances on any possible inflation, we're seeing the gold consolidate between 1240 and 1200. Now, if we jump to oil, a beautiful bounce off of its low of 54.95-ish, as you could see. That was our second retracement down to our Fibonacci levels, and this, you can't write this stuff up, okay? I've had this on my watcher for quite some time, and if we look at a weekly chart, you can see that even clearer, okay, that we're bouncing off of this 54-ish level. It's almost perfect, okay? Now, with that said, I do expect that we do consolidate here, maybe between the 55-ish and 58-ish level, okay? But as that actually fruites, I do expect it to trade within these ranges unless we're going to go further down, okay? If we break that $55 a barrel with some, with some volume, we could see it even go further down to maybe $50 a barrel. So, don't want to celebrate that too soon because we are going into the winter months, and that's generally a high consumption time period by which, oil generally rallies. Okay, so keep that in mind as we continue trading that later today. Now, the Dow Jones, this was really the layup of the week. I mentioned this several times last week that it was really weak around this area of 26,100 level, and then we've retraced down to the 25,000 level. Okay, now this area is really important because this is really the support area right here. All right, and you see that we're bouncing off of this. I actually bought a little bit of this last night, and I do expect it to continue going up further. Let's see if we do get that rally, because this is a massive retracement, about 1,000 points in less than a week, okay, a little bit more than 1,000 points, but altogether I do expect a little bit of a bounce later today for a correctional move after this massive sell-off. So keep that on your watcher later today. Now, lastly, Apple is breaking down 186. Now, this is really free falling and breaking all the barriers on the downside. As you can see, we've had a little bit of a support level, if you call this area support level before, and you see that we're really breaking below it, okay? Now, 184 is a support area-ish, okay? So keep that in mind. If we do see a little bit of a bounce, I should expect that, because this thing has really been beaten up quite badly over the past couple of weeks. Now, what's suffice to say is that, these stocks that we're looking at are always 6 months in advance, okay? The price of what they're worth today is the anticipation of what the worth will be in 6 months, okay? So, with the tremendous growth that Apple has experienced over the last decade, okay, and some of the areas by which it's trading at, $232 a stock, is quite overinflated, okay? So this correctional move was way overdue, but for our purposes, stocks just don't fall out of bed, okay? They retrace and then they bounce, okay? Now, I don't like to call bottoms, okay, but I do believe that we may still see a nice bounce here, okay, on the upside, maybe into a resistance of 200 before this does continue to sell off, okay? I do expect it after the new year to see a sell-off, but looking at this, if you look at a 20-year chart, even a monthly chart, you'll see, how far we've gone, okay, in Apple stock. So we do see, some activity there where we can see some correctional moves. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day.